He trained the lens on the ship first. The black and green insignia on the side marked the ship as part of the Torex Mining Corporation's fleet. Probably sniffing around to see if there was anything in the ground worth tearing apart the planet for. The ship had to be a scout class. It was too small to be anything else. Minimal weaponry, sleek design, large engines, and not much else. It was built for speed, not war. He moved on to the crewman currently examining the outside of the craft. It was getting hard to see through the heavy rain, but he could make out a few details. It was a female, humanoid, and quite tall. She had short black hair and a curvy figure that not even her shapeless jacket could hide completely. Those curves affected him in a way that reminded Raze he hadn't been with a woman in years. It was a streak he had every intention of continuing. He wasn't fit company for anyone, and he never would be. His hand brushed over the scars that marked the left side of his face and added streaks of pure white to his hair. He'd gotten them right here in this valley, in a battle that had cost him everything. The landscape had healed since then. Time and the elements had erased the damage or covered it over with greenery. But in his memory, he could see it all the way it had been. Broken, blood-stained, and raw. A gust of wind howled past the cabin with enough force to make the walls tremble, and the already pounding rain increased until he couldn't see the ship or the woman any longer. If she didn't get back inside her ship soon, she was going to be in trouble. He set the binoculars back on their shelf, started to close the door, and stopped. It didn't feel right to leave her out there, on her own and unaware of what was headed her way. He grunted in frustration at the sudden return of his conscience. He hadn't even been sure he had one anymore, but there it was, nagging at him to go out into the rain and make sure his unwelcome visitor didn't get herself killed. As he tugged on his rain gear, he tried to tell himself it was purely logical. If the Torex scout died, they'd send more ships to find out what happened to her. It was easier to save one and send her on her way than deal with the half-dozen that would come looking later. He was still trying to convince himself when he set out into the storm with a pack full of gear. He was buffeted by winds and hammered by the constant deluge of rain pouring out of the bruised black clouds. He was drenched before he'd gone 20 feet from the cabin. Whoever was down there, she already owed him, and they hadn't even met yet. Sevda was having a lousy day, and it was getting worse by the second. The meteors that had struck her ship while she was in orbit might have been micro, but the damage they had done was huge. The hull was more or less intact, but one of the wings was shredded, and her ship's onboard computer still hadn't tracked down the cause of the power drains plaguing the ship. It was amazing she had managed to maneuver the ship at all, considering the damage she'd taken. Landing it safely had taken all her skill, and during the descent she'd been thankful this planet was uninhabited. If she pancaked the ship on the surface, at least there wouldn't be anyone around to witness her inglorious demise. It would take Eddie and her team of maintenance bots several days to handle all the repairs if everything went smoothly. She looked around at the driving rain and already soggy ground. So far, things were not going smoothly at all. She tapped the comm unit clipped to her jacket. "Eddie, run atmospheric scans and figure out how long this weather will last, will you?" The acronym of the ship's AI was unpronounceable, so she had dubbed her Eddie after one of the workers on her parents' farm. "Affirmative, Pilot Rem. Running now." There was a brief pause, then Eddie spoke again. "Initial assessment is that this weather will continue for at least several hours, possibly more. To get a better forecast, I would have to send one of my probes into the atmosphere. Current readings are limited by the mountains surrounding us. Don't waste your probes. They'll never make it to altitude. Not in this weather." She pulled up the hood of her jacket and sighed. This was supposed to have been nothing more than an orbital flyby. 3 days to scan the planet, send in her report, and move on. Landing hadn't been on the agenda, and every day they were here would make it tougher to collect her early completion bonus. If she got that bonus, she'd have enough to pay off the last of her debts. She'd be free, but only if things didn't stop going wrong.